Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here and investing your time in improving your English and yourself. You are not a person with a bad memory. You are just forgetting almost everything you learn in the exact same way you have always done before. You have read very carefully, written a lot of notes, and even felt like you understood, but a few days later, when you need it again, your mind feels completely empty. That feeling is not because you are not smart. It is because you are learning in a way that makes you forget. You are trying to put a lot into your head, but you are not turning it into something that belongs to you. You are learning, but you have never really learned in the right way. You are not lacking effort. You are just putting effort in the wrong direction. You read a lot, but you do not stop to think. You watch many things, but you do not try to use them. You take nice notes, but you never come back to them. And then you wonder why you forget so fast. The truth is, you do not forget because your brain is weak. You forget because you only do half of learning. Learning always has two parts. The first is taking in information. The second is processing it. But most people only do the first part and then stop. It's like eating a lot, but your body cannot absorb anything. You do not lack knowledge, you lack the process of digestion. You do not remember because you never really touch the knowledge. You only let it pass through your mind. You read one page, then move to the next. You watch one video, then open another one. Everything passes by, but nothing stays. Your brain does not care how much you watch, it only cares what you do with it. If you do not interact, it deletes. If you do not use it, it deletes. If you do not think about it, it deletes. You are not forgetting because you are bad. You are forgetting because your brain is doing its job. You may not notice this, but this is the biggest reason you forget. You use the same way to learn everything. You learn skills, but only by reading. You learn theory, but try to memorize it. You see a good example, but you skip it. And then you forget because you chose the wrong way from the start. Not all knowledge is the same, and if you do not see the difference, you will always learn the wrong way. Some things you must do to remember. Some things you must understand to keep. Some things you must feel to remember longer. If you use one way for everything, you will lose everything. You cannot learn a skill just by reading. You may understand it, but you cannot do it. You watch someone use Excel very smoothly. You think you understand, but when you try, you freeze. Not because you are stupid, but because your brain has never practiced the path. Skills are built through action. You must do it. You must make mistakes. You must repeat it. You must go through the awkward feeling at the start. Then, slowly, it becomes natural. There is no other way. You forget because you learn in a disconnected way. You try to store information like a list, but your brain does not store lists. It stores networks. If a piece of information stands alone, it disappears quickly. But if it connects to something familiar, it stays. A picture, a story, a memory, an emotion. If you attach it to something already in your mind, it becomes much easier to remember. You do not need to be smarter. You just need to connect better. You can memorize a definition, but that does not mean you understand it. Understanding means you can explain it in your own words. Understanding means you can use it in a new situation. Understanding means you know why it is true. If you only remember, you will forget. If you understand, you will keep it. And more importantly, you can use it. Knowledge is not meant to sit in your head. It must work. You remember an embarrassing moment. You remember being rejected. You remember a story that touched you. No one asked you to study, but you still remember clearly because it has emotion. Emotion makes information stronger, and the stronger it is, the harder it is to forget. If you want to remember something, turn it into a story. Imagine it in a real situation. Attach it to a feeling. Your brain will do the rest. You type your password without thinking. You walk a familiar road without thinking. You react quickly in familiar situations. That is when a skill becomes a reflex. To reach that point, there is only one way. Repeat. not just a few times, but enough times so your brain doesn't need to think. At that point, you are not learning anymore. You are becoming the skill. You do not need to learn more. You need to learn in balance. If you only read, you forget. If you only practice, you do not understand. If you only write, you cannot use it. Everything is important, but nothing is enough alone. Learning is like eating. You cannot eat only one thing. You need balance. Sometimes you take in, sometimes you process, sometimes you practice, and sometimes you rest, because your brain also needs time to organize everything. You do not need to be faster than others. You need to be more accurate. Sometimes you should slow down to understand. Sometimes you should repeat to master. Sometimes you should stop to connect things. Learning is not a race. It's a process of adjustment. You need to know where you are and what you need next. That is smart learning. You are not a bad learner. You were just never taught how to learn properly. You were taught how to take notes. You were taught how to memorize. But no one taught you how to understand. No one taught you how to turn knowledge into skill. No one told you that each type of knowledge needs a different way. So you try hard, but it doesn't work. You learn a lot, but keep very little, and you start to doubt yourself. But the truth is, the problem is not you. You do not need a better brain. You just need a better way to learn. When you start to classify what you learn, when you know when to do, when to understand, and when to connect, when you stop trying to remember everything and only keep what truly matters, you will see something very clearly. You were never bad. You just never learned in a way your brain actually works. And once you change that, you will not only remember longer, you will also understand deeper. And from that moment, learning is no longer a burden. It becomes something you can control. If you find this video interesting and helpful, please give me a like and subscribe.